we're all here because we want to learn about overcoming failure in entrepreneurship. And so what I have said in the details is that Richard Branson is someone we can learn from, because if you've ever watched any documentary, read a book, or followed him, or just know anything about Richard Branson, you know that he has many companies that have succeeded, but he also has had his share of failures or challenges. And my goodness, if there is somebody to learn from, it would absolutely be him. Just learning about how he started everything up with Virgin Records. He talks about his near-death adventures and navigating the dot-com bubble burst. But I want to know, how did he think? What set him apart from his peers in school, his upbringing, and his mindset in entrepreneurship, especially when you are going against British Airways, for example, or you're getting sued left and right, or you just have a lot on the line that most people do not have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, on top of an ever-scaling companies with lots of people management. And how can we adopt a similar approach when we face setbacks? So I'm going to start it off with just learning a little bit about him from his mother.
So my mum always believed that that we should be doing things. We should never be watching television. The only time I was allowed to watch television was later on in life, when on the moon landing, but otherwise we weren't allowed to watch television. And I'm very grateful to her for it. So my mum was always trying to make a little bit of extra money on the side. So she built a shed in the back of the garden, and inside that shed she made very pretty looking, tissue boxes and table mats and trays. And then she would head up to London and go and bang on doors of retailers like Harrods and try to get them to take her product on a sale or return basis. I never really thought of her as an entrepreneur, but of course she was an entrepreneur. And it was lovely product, but she wasn't enormously successful. I suspect she put a little bit more food on the table than if she hadn't done it. But she juggled being an entrepreneur with bringing up three young children, looking after a husband, looking after a cottage. I think I learned from her determination. I learned from the fact that she would just get on a train, go to London, and walk the streets of London trying to sell her goods. She managed to sort of keep a happy atmosphere in the shed and in the household at all times. So I thought I would help my mum.
So now he's going to talk about laughing off failures. And by the way, I'm so sorry. How many of you know anything about Richard Branson? Maybe we went a little too quickly. Do you know something about him? Would you like to know a little bit more about him? Okay. All right. So Richard Branson, let me just go ahead and, yes, I need the music here. Okay. So Richard Branson, have you heard of Virgin Airlines? The Virgin Group? Yes. And Virgin Records, Virgin Atlantic. There's even Virgin Galactic now. So he started with a magazine named Student in 1966. And even though he was a student and he actually dropped out of school because his teachers told him that he was never going to make it, he was dyslexic. Of course, they didn't know anything about that then, and he was just kind of considered stupid or distracted. But he really only worked on the things that he liked, that he enjoyed, that he was passionate about. And So he ended up turning that magazine into a net worth for him of 50,000 pounds. And he's a student himself. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg. He really didn't stop. He was always creating businesses and always, what was interesting to me about what he did was that he really did try to get help for people, for students, those that didn't have a whole lot of hope, people who at that time, remember this is the 60s, were not able to get contraceptives without being flagged, by the police, or who were suicidal or had depression, or were LGBT and didn't have an outlet. And he was really, really instrumental in those days in just creating a collective, and having his magazine was more than just pretty pages. There was help there. And then he managed to fund it through advertising from Barclays and other banks. And he started with, I think, 4,000 and then 5,000 pounds. And he just kept going up and up and up. And then, of course, we know more about the 70s and the 80s, the money that he used from his record store. He started doing other like studios and things like that. He got the Sex Pistols, and because of them, he was able to get UB40 and Paula Abdul and even Janet Jackson on his label. So then, it just didn't really stop. There were railways, and he got into, there's just a lot of things. I really encourage you to just follow the lives of these people who don't really take no for an answer. Because when you are getting sued, or you're about to, he fought a lot for what he believed in, and he just didn't really take no for an answer. But I'm going to get back to his childhood, and actually we're going to go on and just listen, because I think there's a lot to glean in how he thinks, and we can think about how we can apply it to our own businesses as well.
And I'd heard that Christmas trees sold for £1 a foot, and that you could buy, 1,000 Christmas trees, 2 or 3 inches high, and for about £5. And so I thought, well, if I plant the Christmas trees and I, wait 2 or 3 years, they will all grow, and our £5 will turn into £1,000. So on the Easter holidays, I planted the seedlings. I went off to boarding school for the term, and I dreamed of what would grow. Anyway, the rabbits got in and ate all the trees, and so I remember walking up to the field when I'd come home from school one day and just seeing a wasteland where every single Christmas tree had been eaten. At that moment, I realized a well-thought-out scheme can go south when you're not closely tending to your investment. And I think throughout my life, if something's gone wrong and there's nothing we can do about it, accept it gracefully, wake up the next day, put it behind you, pick yourself up, and start again.
I think that's wonderful advice. He's had so many failures. This was his first venture with trees and didn't think about them all getting munched to bits by rabbits. He's failed with Virgin Cola, Virgin Cars, Virgin Publishing, Virgin Clothing, Virgin Brides. And I love that no one knows this. At least I didn't know this. And he has said, I suppose the secret to bouncing back is not only to be unafraid of failures, but to use them as motivational and learning tools. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes as long as you don't make the same ones over and over again. And my goodness, this man has been to space. He's had the Virgin Atlantic fly all over the world. And there is so much to be said about never giving up, and that's separating you from everyone else in what you do. There's another clip that I want you to hear. And this is about how to be David in an industry Goliath. And it's a story that he learns from a relative of his.
As a child, I was captivated by stories of adventurers like those who tried to be the first to reach the South Pole. I'm actually related to one of those great adventurers, Scott of the Antarctic, who set out for the pole in 1912. I knew his descendants, they were cousins, and as a kid, I used to enjoy visiting them and hearing the stories. When you're doing something for the first time that nobody's ever done before, you do just have to accept that there is a reason that people haven't done it before. And what you're trying to do is overcome the reasons that people haven't done it before and try to make the odds stack in your favor as best you can. I learned a lot from Scott of the Antarctic because he tried and died in the pursuit. People who've tried and failed, I think you can actually learn more from often than people who've succeeded.
So here he talks about learning from where others fell short.
It's often easier to follow a pioneer than actually be the pioneer. So Freddie Laker started the first low-cost airline to take on British Airways in the early 70s. I learned a lot from Sir Freddie Laker because he'd tried and gone bankrupt. Freddie Laker took on British Airways. He only survived a year. It was a very exciting year. BA did to him what they did to pretty well every airline that took them on. Dan Air, Air Europe, British Caledonian. They drove them out of business through, I think, generally very questionable means. What I could look at was what was Laker's weakness. Laker's weakness was it was just a low-cost long-haul airline. Great fun, but low-cost long-haul airline. Flying to one city, New York. BA were flying to numerous cities. So what BA could do was just reduce the price on around his flight times on their flights and suck all the business to British Airways and basically lost lead in order to drive somebody out of business. So what we decided to do based on that experience was make sure that we were very different from British Airways, so it was much more difficult for them to do it.
Our idea is not the sort of no-thrills airline, which Laker was going for. What we've decided to do is actually offer an airline which is better than the TWAs and the Pan Ams.
I'm going to stop there because I could go on and on and on and on, but then you might as well just watch the documentary, right? Or the masterclass. But the point is that he thought different. He learned from failures. The way to overcome failure is to learn from it. So in this case, he's not only examining his own failures, but the failures of those close to him, the people not close to him. He's looking at all of these things and thinking. And one of the best things that I learned as well from him, or the best thing, maybe, is it the best? It just makes me really excited. He says that no matter what you do, have fun and learn from it. He's like, yeah, this didn't work out, but I learned a ton. So that is the real reward. And this brings it back to mindfulness, where you are becoming aware of yourself, you're becoming aware of everyone else around you. You are consciously seeking an experience with yourself in this human flesh on this earth. So it's not always about being the best, it's about giving the best, and in the process of giving the best. So what he was talking about with the airline, you're not going to want to compete on price, because you can be undercut real quick by major airlines. You want to be the best. Examine their weaknesses and see where you fit in, what your unique gift is, and the way you bring your services and your product to the world, and how you can be the best at that. And so a lot of times, it's definitely not by accident that super successful entrepreneurs that have these humanitarian initiatives that would, of billions and millions of dollars, it's no coincidence that they're at the top. I mean, that's obviously one of the goals, but I believe beyond that, the biggest goal is, we can take it as well from Steve Jobs, loving what you do and just giving everything because you love it so much, and being the best at that. And I really do believe that it's much like when you're studying for a degree or anything else, you need to get into that degree not because you want the piece of paper, not because you want the certificate to hang on the wall or the plaque, not because you want to walk across the stage, not because you want to impress your family and your friends. Same with getting a job, same with marrying someone, same with getting a house or moving to this place. You want to do everything you do because you truly want to do it. You love it, you believe in it, and you believe in yourself as well. And that will sustain you when things get hard and when the economy or the landscape shifts or all of these changes happen. You will have learned a ton. And if that is your goal, instead of being number one at blah, blah, blah alone, then that will help you overcome. And you won't even know about people won't even know about your failed projects unless you talk about them. I mean, this man has more failed businesses than most people have businesses. Virgin brides, never heard of that. Already sounds like a terrible idea. But I just wanted to tell you that it all starts with examining yourself. It all starts with being serious about mindfulness and thinking, what can I learn from this? What can I gain from this? And of course, when you remove the fear of failure, that's ironically when you succeed. And you really should, if you haven't taken the masterclass, do take the masterclass. There's a whole packet that comes with it and everything. You learn all about the dopamine hits and the cycle that happens when you take risk and how it actually increases your tolerance for more risk. And provided you are doing the right thing, you become more successful as a result. So that sounds good to you. Please give me a heart. Let me know that we're on the same page here, that I haven't just been talking. Awesome. So, I mean, the depth of this guy's influence and initiatives where you can get together elders, including Nelson Mandela and others, to like stop wars or intervene even beyond the government. The sky is really the limit when you get over yourself. And how big of an ego do you have to think that you can make a difference in the world like that? But how, and that's not really, that gives such a negative connotation. How much self-confidence and self-belief and high regard do you have to have of yourself to be able to do these things, to find sustainable alternatives for everything, energy, shipping, fuel, to stop wars, to talk directly with Saddam Hussein to get him to stop his efforts in destruction. I mean, it's insane the things you can do, but also How humble do you have to be able to take a hit and still get back up and still walk and still keep going? To overcome your failure is to get over yourself, to overcome the voice in your head that tells you that, well, it's over now. You can stop. It was a good run. And I'm really grateful to someone in this group who has asked that we speak on this today, because I think that a lot of us would just do better if we were more compassionate to ourselves, and understanding that in order to keep walking, you have to literally keep walking, put one foot in front of the other. And this isn't a pep talk. Like, I'm being serious when I say that when you get in tune with yourself and you understand like what happened in this failure, and you use it as a stepstone and mindfully make the decision to put things in place so that it doesn't happen again, even if that's just you not being in a relationship or business with people that you don't really have where it doesn't go anywhere. That in itself I consider to be progress. And you can rewire your brain to look for the signals of success, meaning pay attention to the deals that go well, pay attention to the mentors that have been in your life, that have served you, who you hopefully serve as well, bring something back. Think about the skills that were lacking in order for something to go that went out the window. What was it? What was that key skill, and how can I invest in myself, and how can I upskill myself? Think about the finances that you need to really make an arrangement work. Think about the network that you truly need to build. I think sometimes we just go into things a little haphazardly, and we would do a lot better if we actually maybe even write it down. Dare I say, build out a vision board and include the names of people that you want to connect with. Understand you're not a one-man band, or shouldn't be anyway. You get much further with partnership. But it starts in here, and I point to my head, and now I point to my heart. Getting in tune with that is going to set you up. The RAS, remember the RAS? I'll talk about that again. But it's the bouncer in your head. And it's going to look for ways to fulfill all of these things. And we're at the end of the year, so it's not too late to do that now. And before we go on, I just want to pause and see if, Shankar, you have something to say, or if anyone else does as well. I know I played quite a lot of Branson, but I hope it was impactful.
Well, good morning. I was multitasking, and I'm not too good at that, so I have only captured probably a fifth of what you presented, but I know
the honesty, Shankar, goodness, no one would have known.
But I know Richard Branson. Wait,
tell them why. Tell them why you were multitasking. What were you doing before?
Oh, so I was on a call where I am a mentee. So one of my billionaire mentors has a live call once a month, and of course you don't want to miss that call, right? So I know we often tell you about, join our challenge and whatnot and learn from us, but at the same time I'm doing the same, right? You cannot stop learning and growing ever. And I'm sure Richard Branson would agree with that. I watched the mastermind class that you were referring to, and yeah, I mean, Richard has been a mentor to me without him knowing it forever. I mean, he's very inspirational. There's very few people who have reached in so many fields the heights that he has. But when I I always, when I come to your rooms, Andrea, I look at the title, Overcoming Failure in Entrepreneurship, and then I just think about, well, what does that mean? And obviously, very cliche. One one door closes, the other one opens. It's very cliche, but it's very true, and it happens sometimes very radically, where you have to completely change what you are doing. Maybe you lose a job, or one of your companies goes bankrupt, or within your company, what you are doing stops working because all of a sudden the environment has changed and the old ways don't work anymore. One that I can really speak about that happened recently is website creation, right? We own a marketing agency, used to do good money in building websites, and then AI came along and website builders came along, and now all of a sudden you need to understand how do you use strategy to help people make money with the websites, right? Because the websites alone don't make money. So those are good things, because it had to force us to see a higher level and to understand strategy even more, and to help people understand a website is only a tool. You need a strategy to get traction with it. So yeah, that's my contributions today, and I'm looking forward to getting the week started. And back to you, Andrea.
Shankar, I remember you saying a lot, screw it, let's do it. And it's a great ethos in the face of failure. And of course, we get that from Richard Branson. But you said so many things, and I know we're at time here, but just beginner's mind, whenever you fail, just come back to that. Don't let the obstacles break you, and just learn from that, get strengthened. And again, Shankar's talking about AI and all of these things happening, but we get creative, and we can transform any of these crazy obstacles and changes that are happening, and we can rise. Like, that's what entrepreneurs do. We just have to keep our eyes open and keep a growth mindset. And then when stress starts to come, just go into your mindfulness place and continue on and keep leading with heart and purpose. And what else? Remember, you've survived 100% of your toughest days. So take a deep breath in and repeat after me. I have a beginner's mind. I cultivate fresh solutions. I believe in constructive failure. I am resilient. I manage my stress mindfully. I lead with heart and purpose. All right, just take a moment, take some more breaths. This time is for you as we go into our final stretch before Thanksgiving here in the US, leading into the holidays for everyone. And keep yourself open. Remember, the door to success comes with a lot of closed doors, but those are all behind us. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 a.m. Central Time. Thank you so much for being here. Went over just a couple minutes, but appreciate it for you staying on. All right, we'll have a wonderful day. See you later.